So if you've just joined us for the first time, this is Entrepreneurship 101. My name is Fade Ogunro and I'm the CEO of bookingsafrica.com. So Entrepreneurship 101 is simply a 5-day masterclass that I thought would be good for me to share some information that I've gathered over the last decade, but specifically in the last, let's say, 2-3 years, starting up my own business. There were a lot of pitfalls that I made. There were a lot of things that I had to read. I didn't know where to get some information. And I thought, you know what? I've been donating money to charities. I've, given money to a few people that have called. I've tried to do my own bit. I've fed some people, during this Corona season, I've tried to give back as much as I could. And I realized if I keep giving everybody money every day, by the end of the month, I'm not going to have anything. So what else can I give? And I thought, you know what, my Bookings Africa community, I want to give back to them and share the wealth of information and also the contacts that I have as well that can also really be impactful. So based on that, it's been a 5-day program. The first day we've covered everything. It was called the starter pack. So what's the first thing you need to think about as an entrepreneur? So we covered everything from business plan, business model. What's the difference between the two? We covered your route to market, knowing your vision, mission, your branding, your company culture. So that was covered in day 1. Day 2 was starting with zero. What do you do as an entrepreneur when you have no funds? How do you access finance? So we spoke to SME 100 Africa, who are partners on this masterclass series. Thank you very much, Charles. We also spoke to Ife Durosimi Eti, who specializes in accessing grants. So if your business falls under the SDGs, which is Sustainable Development Goals, then you're more likely to be able to access a grant and that you don't have to pay back. So in case you wanted to go that route, she spoke to us about that. And then we also had our other partners, Access Bank, let us know the products that they have available for MSMEs, micro businesses, small businesses, medium enterprises. And then Wednesday, we had an explosive day with Dr. Akintoye Akindele, and he gave us everything that we needed to know about the art of pitching, how to write a pitch deck, how to pitch to investors, and what exactly do investors want to hear. If you missed out on those, never mind. Next week, the videos will be out on our YouTube channel. And because you registered via email, we will also send those links to you via email. So that's next week. Yesterday, we had an interesting topic, which is about career pivoting. You might be an entrepreneur or budding entrepreneur, and you're currently employed. So how do you move to your new position as a CEO? Do you have to juggle the two? Do you have to leave one or the other? Can you always just do the two? So those are what we explored. And if you are a CEO, the trajectory and the journey on how you hire a team as well. So we had Onyeka Akuma, who's the CEO of Farm Crowdy. He let us know how he's built his company from zero, raised millions of dollars, and went from him and a co-founder to a staff of over almost 90 in 3 years. So that was very insightful. And Ekwadewa also provided some very, very interesting tips on if you want to pivot your career. The key buzzword for that is upskilling. Make sure you're always learning. And then today, which is our final day, is called Stay in Check. Okay. So staying in check is literally the part that I'd probably say is my weakest point. I made a lot of pitfalls. I made a lot of mistakes when it comes to making sure that I'm registered correctly, making sure that I've got a legal team who can look over my my business, the contracts that I'm receiving. So when you speak to a venture capitalist, an investor, they're going to give you some contracts. They're going to want some certain documentation from you to speed up the process of them giving you the funds. So mine was actually delayed, and I'll talk to you about that after our guest speakers. So I'll tell you my journey in terms of trying to stay in check, the pitfalls that I had experienced, and of course how you can overcome them. And to be able to help us overcome them, I've got Georgette, Georgette Monnou. Georgette works with Olaniyan Ajayi. Now, if you know about anything about the legal world, Olaniyan Ajayi are like the Ferrari of legal firms. Okay, so these are for the big boys, you know. But also, what's interesting about them is that they have a section, an area or a team that are dedicated to the tech industry and to entrepreneurs as well. So I think that'll be interesting to hear from them. So Georgette, she's an associate at Olania, and she works in the power and infrastructure practice, as well as entertainment, leisure, and media practice as well. And she advises clients on a wide range of infrastructure projects, entertainment and media contracts. So she'll be giving us everything we need to know about legal rights. So she'll be telling us what is the difference between a business name and a limited liability company. Why should you actually even register? What is the importance of registering your business? And what's the difference, like I mentioned? And does that actually have any implications for taxes if you're a business name registered or your limited liability company? Also, copyright, trademark, patents. Do you need it? What is the importance of all that? So Georgette is on hand to share all this information. And I always had an interesting question about, you know, other companies that have the same name in another country. So you might have, I don't know, a blue book in Nigeria, whatever, and they're a library or something. Then you have another company called Blue Book in America, but they're a delivery company. How can you make sure that if you're the company in Nigeria, that Blue Book in America don't sue you? So these are the sort of things that I want us to kind of think about, because they are actually real. A lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, we kind of put the legal aspect on the back burner because it's not the most pressing issue. You know, you're still trying to get your team together, or trying to raise money, or try to buy your product, or trying to, you know, you've got more pressing issues. And I find that people put the legal stuff in the background. But when something legally does go wrong, it can really, really be detrimental to the business. So Georgette is on hand right now. So Georgette, I think I've tried to give you a glorious introduction, but feel free to expand on it as much as you want. And then, of course, like I said, you've got about 15 minutes to just kind of give us the lowdown on everything we should know as entrepreneurs, and also how your company, how your law firm can also help an entrepreneur specifically as well would be great.
Sure. So thanks, Fade, for the introduction. And hi, everyone. Hello. My name is Georgette Monnou, like Fade said, and I'm a media and entertainment lawyer, and I work for a law firm called Olanu Ajayi. So I think today what we're going to do is I'm going to go through the difference between a business name and a incorporated entity. What are the key differences between them? Which business vehicle would suit you as an entrepreneur? And then I'll go into a bit more detail about trademarks, patents, copyrights. What are they? How do they work? How can you protect yourself? How do they apply to your business? Before talking perhaps about some legal documentation that you would need once you have an investor on board. So thanks, Fade, for the introduction. So without further ado, I'm going to jump straight in because we don't have much time. And I'm sure the first question that's coming to most of your minds is, I have a business, I have an idea, I want to run this business. What business vehicle do I use? Do I decide to just register a business name, or do I decide to actually incorporate an entity, a legal entity? Now, what's critical about business names is that the Act provides that you have 28 days after starting your business. This is the Company and Allied Matters Act in Nigeria. You have 28 days within which to be able to register your business name once you start business. Now, when you register your business name, they would ask you for details in relation to what your business name is, what business you're running, the address you're running it from, and the individuals that may be working with you. And typically, once you've registered your business name, a certificate will be issued to you, and that certificate will contain your business name as well as the state in which you're operating in. Because the state that you're operating in is critical for the government to be able to track what business you're running, largely because your business name is not a corporate vehicle. It's not a legal entity. It's not a legal body in a way that it would have been if you had registered a company. So there's a need to figure out, okay, where your business name is registered. Now, what's really critical and quite different about business names is once you cease operations, you cease business, or God forbid you pass on, you have to write a notification to the company's commission, corporate affairs commission, to let them know that your business has stopped continuing operations, or you would need to let the personal representative of your estate would have to let them know that you've passed on. That means that you live and die with your business once it's a business name, because it's not a legal entity. You're a sole proprietor working in that business. So once you go, there's a huge key man risk, because once you go, once you pass on, once you stop working, your business dies with you, which I think is really critical for most people to realize. And as always, you would still need to ensure that you file your returns at the Corporate Affairs Commission once a year, which would include information about your financials and who runs the business. So what are the key advantages of a business name? Okay, the key advantages for you to think about: control over your business. You don't have anyone telling you how to run it. There's no shareholder, there's no director. It costs less money because it costs 10,000 naira to register your business name. This is your statutory costs. There's less formality. That's the third one, because you don't have board meetings, you don't have shareholder meetings, you're not required by the law to be able to do those. And I think the key disadvantages anyway to think about is, okay, the key man risk that I spoke about. Once I die, once I stop working, so does my business. And for some people, depending on the business that you're running, it may be fine for you, because you're running a small shop, you know, you don't necessarily need private funding. You're okay with the way your business is running. It's just you. And as long as you have something registered and you have a certificate to your name, that may be good enough. But for many of you SMEs who are thinking of getting actual investors on board, getting people to invest in your company, either by way of equity, which is to buy shares in your company, or debt, which is to give you a loan, a business name may not be the best thing for you, okay? First of all, you have the key man risk, which is the fact that once you live and die, your business goes away with you. There's no continuity of operations. And also, investors are really keen on investing in a business that they have larger oversight over your financials, over the management of the company. As a shareholder, they have the right to be able to choose the people they want on your board of directors. And so when you have a limited liability company, the added benefit is that, you know, you are not involved directly in the business in relation to your debt. So the company itself can decide to get debt from a bank, so get a loan from a bank, or get a loan from a private investor, or have shareholders come in and invest in the business. And if they decide to, if the loan goes bust, no one is looking for you as the shareholder. No one's looking for you as the director of the business. So it's a good way to be able to insulate yourself from that risk. So what are limited liability companies? It's just a incorporated entity. You register it like you would a business name. There's a raft of different documentation that's required of you. You need a minimum of 2 shareholders to be able to set up your company. Fadi, I'm sure you know this.
Yes.
Yeah. And the maximum number of shareholders that you can have is 50. And although the act provides that you only need a minimum of 10,000 naira to be able to set up your company, most people who incorporate companies in Nigeria typically incorporate it with 1 million naira share capital. Okay, those who have questions, you can ask, and I'm sure Fadi will be following with the questions, so I can answer all of them at the end. So when you have 1 million, if you put down 1 million naira, you would have 1 million shares in your company if each share is at 1 naira. Very simple. Now, typically people do that because it gives them the flexibility to be able to get additional shareholders on board. They can split those shares evenly. And all the law requires is that 25% of that amount, which is 250,000 naira, is paid when you incorporate your company. So it's a good way to ensure that your business runs as efficiently as possible, as effectively as possible. And interestingly, the fees for setting up your company is only 15,000 naira. Doesn't cost that much. It's 10,000 naira statutory fees, 5,000 naira for a copy of all your documentation. Okay. And you have to make sure you have your returns once a year, like I said already. And those returns are the returns that would include your financial statements, your profit and loss accounts, the shareholder statements on how the business is running. So it's a bit more extensive in terms of the documentation that will be required for you to be able to run the business. And the law requires that you must have an annual general meeting once a year within 18 months of first incorporating your company.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things that I was talking about, the difference between a business name and a company. Now you're going to have board of directors, you have shareholders. You must have a shareholder meeting once a year. Okay. And I just need a question. 25%, or it's not 25% of the revenue of your business. No, now we're talking about tax liability. That's different. It's 25% of the shareholding in your company that must be paid for. So what I mean by that is, if you have 1 million shares on your corporation, you must ensure that 250,000 naira of those shares are paid. That's all it means, which means that between you and another shareholder, you're both bringing 125,000 naira to the table. And if the company should go bust, let's say your company doesn't do well financially, the only liability you have as a shareholder is on the amount that is unpaid, which is the 750,000 naira that's left that hasn't been paid for. It's not a yearly fee. It is a setup fee on incorporation, which is when your company comes alive. That's all it is. So it's not a yearly fee. Okay.
It's a one-off fee.
It's a one-off fee. Now, why is it important for you to choose between a limited liability company and a business name? Now, I've already alluded to this before. If it's a limited liability company, your liability in terms of whatever debt is, somebody saying they're hard to hear me. Fade, can you hear me clearly?
Perfectly. Is anybody
Okay.
else having any problem here in Georgette? If I'm sure if there were problems, they would have mentioned. So, Olaoye, Olania says kind of. Merit says no. It might just be some people's reception, so it's fine. We're recording it, so we can go ahead.
Okay, fantastic. So why is it important that you choose this? Like I said, your liability is limited to whatever is unpaid on your shares. So if your company decides to get a loan from Access Bank and the loan is 50 million naira, if your company cannot pay back that loan, no one is coming to look for you. That's the beauty of setting up an incorporated entity. If it was a business name, they're looking for you because there's no one else to look to, because you're the sole proprietor running your business. So in that regard, having an incorporated entity might be the best option for you. And a good thing is that you can apply for loans. Your company can apply for loans on your business's behalf. You know, your company can enter into contracts, more importantly, on your business's behalf, right? And other things that you need to think about is that ownership is transferable. So I can decide that I'm going to sell the shares that I have in Georgie's Cakes and Bakes Limited, coming to your mouth very soon, to Fade. And I'm like, okay, Fade, I want you to buy my shares. And, you know, I buy out of the business in that way. So that's a good way to think about it. You know, meanwhile, if you are running a business name, there's nothing to transfer. There's no one to transfer it to because the business is registered in your name. So if you're going to enter into a contract now, and I'm sure Fade knows this because we had this conversation before. If you were a business name, it would be Fade Ogunro entering into the contract, you know, trading under the name and style of Bookings Africa, as opposed to having Bookings Africa Limited being the company entering into the contract. And there's some interesting tax implications, which Fade had mentioned already. If you're running a business name, you don't pay tax. Yeah, I think Abidin is already agreeing with me. You don't pay tax when you're running a business name. You don't. It's only when you have an incorporated entity, and if you are working in the goods and services industry, you know, you'd be liable to pay tax at 7.5%, and your company's income tax would be at 30%. Yeah. And in the event that there was anything called withholding tax, which have certain triggers under the law, you would have to withhold sums on behalf of somebody else, and that withholding is at 10%. So those are some of the things that would be good for you to think about.
When we speak to our next speaker, he's actually, excuse me, from the LIRS. So I think
Yes.
he will let us know. This withholding tax is like a unicorn. Where does it go? Where, why? I don't even know what it means. So it's like a fairy tale. Yes. So I'm sure I'm not the only one that is mystified. So we'll let him get into that in about 10 minutes once we wrap up with you, about 10-15 minutes. So yes, I didn't mean to interrupt. Please go ahead.
That's fine. So that's just some tax implications for you to think about. So I'm sure the next speaker will go into more detail and ask all your granular tax questions. So that's just a bit of foundations about the difference between a business name and a company. And I hope I was able to shed more light on that. I'll move now into thinking about other things, which is your copyrights, your trademark.
Your line is bad, Georgette, or is it just me? Hold on. Pause, Georgette. Can everybody hear her? Her line is bad. It just went bad. Yes. So as soon as you started speaking about, till now, still nothing. As soon as you started speaking about the other, say something. Hello? Okay,
Hello?
I think we can, yes,
Hello,
you're
can
back
you hear
now.
me?
Yes. All good.
Oh my God, sorry everybody. You know this Lagos life, we're all hustling. So apologies. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Am I clear?
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. So fantastic. So under the Copyright Act, it affords protection for people who have creative works. And once your creative work has been created, the act affords protection to the owners of that work. So if you are literary works in terms of you write books, or you write lyrics, if you have musical work, so you're a composer of that music, if you're a photographer and it's artistic work, or if you do architectural drawings and you have those drawings, or if you're somebody that mixes and masters music in sound recordings or in film, then the act provides protection for you. So once those works have been created, the owner of that work has the right to be able to reproduce the work, to adapt it, to license it, to assign it to somebody else, which is how you can monetize the content that you have. And you don't have to do anything. That's the beauty of the Copyright Act. It just gives you that protection the moment those works have been created. What we typically advise clients to do, though, especially in the film world, where I'm sure majority of you have heard about, oh, somebody has written a script, somebody says, no, that script was actually mine, I wrote it, it's copyright infringement. In those kind of instances, we usually advise clients to register their works at the Nigerian Copyright Commission. They'll give you a little certificate that says that this is yours, you're the owner and author of that work. And even though it does nothing for you in terms of your day-to-day, if there was going to be a dispute that would happen later on, what would happen is you would have evidence that, okay, actually I created this work on this day, I got it registered, so I don't know what you're talking about because this is my work. So that's a good way.
Let me give you some gist. If you stay on after we speak to our second speaker, I will let you know when a certain somebody tried to sue me exactly about this. Yes, copyright infringement. So you guys stay tuned for some juice. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's something that you guys all need to bear in mind. And moving on to trademarks, though. So what is a trademark and why do you need your trademark? Your trademark is so critical because it's a distinctive mark or logo that is used to identify your business. Okay, and without that mark or that logo, you won't be able to build your brand. Customers won't really be able to identify with your brand. I mean, I think all of us know some brands here in Nigeria that are really quite strong. I think GT Bank has a very strong and very distinctive brand. Their orange is very distinctive. Their company culture is very distinctive. Other homemade brands, Bookings Africa is growing her brand at the moment. Yeah, what's up? So those are all brands that we can all kind of identify with and identify the business that is attached to that. So the act says that you can decide to create your brand in different ways. It can be your signature, it can be your name, but your name or your or your company or your individual or firm's name, but it just has to be done in a distinctive manner, in a very particular artistic manner. It could be an invented word, or it could be a name that is typical, that exists, but you're attaching it to a class of works that is very unrelated. And what do I mean by that? Can anyone guess? So like a brand like Apple, for example, Apple, the brand, Apple is a fruit. You would never have thought that Apple, a fruit, would ever be linked with technology inventions, but Apple has done that. So even though Apple is a word that exists today, because it was able to be registered as a trademark because it was related to a class that doesn't relate to what the fruit represents. Okay, so with that in mind, they were able to register their trademark. And the process is pretty simple. It can take from 9 months to an upward ceiling of 2 years to 3 years. Sometimes it takes longer because of Nigerian bureaucracy. You know, we even found out that there was a mark that had gone in to be registered in 2010 that didn't come out till 2020, which was a very extreme end of how long registration process can take. But usually you would meet your lawyer and your lawyer would fill out the documentation for you. They would lodge the application for you. Once they lodge the application, there's something called an acknowledgement form that will be issued to you. Now that form is very important. And Fade is shaking her head, yes. That form is very important because it's evidence of when you lodge the application for your trademark. So should somebody come 6 months down the line and your trademark certificate has not been issued yet, and they want to register the same mark, they wouldn't be able to do that because there's evidence that you had already come first in time to register your trademark. And once it's approved, there's an acceptance notice that goes into a trademark journal. And in that journal, they would leave it open for about 2 months for anyone to be able to say that they oppose the mark for any reason. It's similar to their mark, or it's a mark they already had, or it's offensive to public policy. And if all of that is still fine, no one complains about your mark, you'll get your certificate issued shortly thereafter. Best case scenario these times is about 9 months. But the fees are not bad. It's like 35,000 naira. Statutory cost, that is 35,000 naira to be able to register your trademark. You know, so that's something to think about. And once you have your trademark, it's yours for 7 years, unless you need to renew it for an additional period of 14 years. You know, so it's good to have your trademark registered. And trademark critically, guys, is territorial. So what that means is that your trademark is only yours in the region within which you have registered it and in the classes that you've registered your trademark. So if I'm running a drug company now, or in the case of creative SMEs, you're running, I don't know, a hair salon, then it will be under the marks in relation to beauty and cosmetics. You know, it wouldn't be in the mark in relation to technology. But if you travel to like England, even though your trademark is registered in Nigeria, no one in England knows who you are, what your business is, and whether or not your trademark is protected. So you would need to be able to register those trademarks in the other jurisdictions you operate in. So the moment you know that you want to run a business that's going to cross between Lagos, London, Ghana, Sierra Leone, make sure you register your trademarks in those countries as well. It seems like a lot of legal jargon, but trust me when I say to you that these are so important and so crucial for your business to run effectively. Absolutely. And what is a patent? Very quickly, patents are just an invention that's capable of industrial application. And an invention has to be state of the art, which means that it has to be something different and hasn't been created in that line or in that industry. And usually if you register your patent, it's registered and it's yours for a period of 20 years, after which it lapses, because the idea is that it's no longer a novel invention. You only have protection for a specific period of time. And importantly, guys, right, the Act recognizes two things: something called a statutory inventor and a true inventor, which means that what the law does is that whoever is first to register the trademark is deemed to be the inventor, even if it's not the real person that actually invented that. Yes. Yeah. So you have to make sure.
Thomas Edison did something like that, didn't he, with the light bulb?
with the light bulb.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
always have to make sure that you register on time. You're the one that registers it. I mean, the application form does allow for the statutory inventor to cite who the true inventor is, but it's always better to make sure you go in and do all your paperwork on time to ensure that you don't have any further issues. So those are my little 2 cents. I hope I was not too fast. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me so we can talk about it. So thanks, Fade.
No problem. Thanks. I loved it. Concise. I've got my notes about trademarking, about copywriting, patents. Let me just quickly I've got a couple of questions, but let me see. I think a few people were asking questions. So they want to know, Merchandise says, can a business name be upgraded to a liability company?
No.
Absolutely.
Actually,
you have to change.
Fantastic question. No, actually, you can't upgrade a business name to a limited liability company, which is one of the disadvantages of that company, because whatever you've done to grow your business, you're going to have to start afresh and create a brand new company with the name that you would like. So in the way that you would have been able to convert, let's say, a limited liability company to a publicly listed company that would be on like the New York Stock Exchange, you can't do that with a business name.
I know, because that was the problem that I had. I was a business name. Bookings Africa was trading as a business name. And then to get when I met the investors, they told me that I needed to make it, turn it into a limited liability company. And also, that means you actually have to open up a brand new bank account. So whichever bank you're using to register, to operate your business under with a business name, if you open up a brand new limited liability company, you have to open up a brand new business as well, a brand new bank account rather, because there are forms that the bank would require from you. So the forms that they'll need are things like obviously your shareholders agreement, the subscription, like, you know, how many, all of that information that you would normally you fill out when you are filling out for a limited company. Another question is, a business name doesn't pay tax. What about VAT?
The form of tax, so you're not liable to pay any tax as a business name. Remember, the business name is just a sole proprietorship. It's basically just you having something registered that, you know, you're the one operating, I don't know, Mama Puts in the middle of Akande markets. That's literally all it does. It doesn't really do much more than that. But you would have your own tax liability. I'm sure the gentleman speaking on tax will speak about that later. You would have your own tax liability as an individual that you would have to pay for, but it wouldn't be liability in relation to your actual business.
What about VAT? They said, does that affect, do you have to pay VAT? Is it? I mean, I'm sure.
No.
Okay.
But our tax gentleman, I'm sure, would be able to clear up that query shortly. But no, you wouldn't be liable to pay VAT. No.
When can one register a company as a limited liability?
Anytime you want, guys. Anytime you want. There's no time period for you to be able to register your company. I also run a bakery on the side, and I haven't even registered my bakery yet. Can you imagine? You know, it's so bad. It's so interesting. Lawyers are always bad at giving themselves their own legal advice.
Oh dear.
So I haven't even registered my bakery yet, and I've been asking myself, okay, should I do it by a business name or should I do it by an incorporated entity? And I realized, actually,
Georgette,
for the kind of business I want to run.
Are you operating? You know, we have someone from LIRS here. Before they come for you and say you're not paying your taxes.
I'm not operating. Don't worry. I'm not operating. Don't worry. I pay my tax.
I wasn't there. It wasn't.
I pay my tax. No. But I mean, I'm just telling you about the thoughts that have been going through my mind about how to run my business in the best way possible. You know, so I've said to myself, okay, genuinely, I probably should think about which, you know, vehicle I want to use for my business. And, you know, an incorporated entity might work for me. It might not, because I don't really want to deal with people. I don't need shareholders. I don't need directors. I don't really need investors, because I don't really need like seed capital in that way to be able to run my bakery. That maybe doing it by way of an incorporated vehicle might not work for me. A business name might just be better for me, but that's me. So
I agree. Once you want to scale your business and you need to get shareholders, you need to get investors, then definitely needs to be a limited company. But if you're just a one-man band, then at least have a business name, but also remember that you need to keep your records. Every time you do a job, have an invoice, have a receipt, because
Yeah.
that's the problem that people have, that freelancers have. They just think they don't do the actual financial bookkeeping. And then they have
Yes.
problems later on down the line when it comes to proving your income, paying your taxes,
Yeah.
getting a loan, getting a
Exactly.
mortgage, because they actually haven't
Yeah.
done the financial bookkeeping part. Okay, so
Exactly.
I will take two more questions and then I will love you and leave you. Let me see.
So
Someone asked, Kalu says, what happens when an LLC suspends operation for a period of time?
what do you mean by what happens though? Do they mean like, does the company disappear? So, I mean, I think that's kind of like the key difference between the business name and the limited liability vehicle. If your business name actually isn't operating, you know, the Corporate Affairs Commission can come after you and be like, well, you're not really operating a business. Why do you need the business name? But with the company, no. I mean, unless what would happen is that if your business isn't really running for an extended period of time, then you would file the bare minimum in terms of your financials. There's a statement that I'm sure the LIRS gentleman will speak to us about that anyway. But there's
Sure.
like a tax statement that you would have to issue saying that, you know, your financials are very limited. You know, there has been limited income during that particular year, and you would just provide information in relation to that, and that's all you would need. But your incorporated entity would still be there. No one's going to wind it up. You won't have any issues in that regard.
Awesome, thank you. And there's just a couple of really quick ones. I think they're just like yes or no. Would you be allowed to retain the name of the business name when you want to register afresh as a limited liability company?
That just depends on whether or not there's another name that has been registered as an incorporated entity that is similar to your name. And the CAC would flag that as best as it can. So usually when you go in to do something called a reservation of name, you would give two options that you would want, and the CAC would search and see whether or not those options are available for you. And if there's another company that's similar to the name that you had in the past, you would have to change that name to be able to ensure that you don't infringe on somebody else's name.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Georgette. I've learned
Thank
quite a
you.
lot. If you've just joined us, because I've just admitted like 10 people into the session. So if you've just joined us,
Yeah.
you've just missed out on Georgette Monnou telling us everything you need to know about the legalities of running a business, from registering a business name, a limited liability company, what the difference is. Do you need a copyright, a trademark, how you go about filling that out, and the time period. Maurice said, I wanted to know the process of registering a limited liability takes 6 to 9 months. No, it doesn't. It's actually a trademark. To actually get your trademark certificate can take about 9 months, maybe even longer as well, but not a limited liability. So that's
Not a
completely
limited
different.
liability company. Yeah.
So if you do have any more questions, please still feel free to write them out here. If I know the answer, I will try and share them. If not, I will send them over to Georgette, and I'm sure she'll be more than willing to answer them. And remember that at the end of the week, well, it's already Friday, so by tomorrow, we will be sending you minutes of the masterclasses from the entire week. So even if today is your first day, it doesn't matter. You're still actually going to get minutes of the masterclass from Monday through to today. So, and we're also recording this session as well. So it will also go onto our YouTube next week in case you just thought, oh, I need to, refresh myself on some things that Georgette said, or I need clarity again. Then of course you can watch it on our YouTube page next week. Georgette, thank you so much. Like I said,
Thank
it was very
you.
insightful.
My pleasure. And I'm happy to stay on if there are any questions that people may have towards the end. I'm happy to jump in and answer them. So I'm still here.
I think on the chat group as well, you can also message people privately. So if people have asked a question, you can actually just send their name and just message them, or leave the message to everyone in the group so they can all see the response as well. So that's very helpful. Thank you. Okay, so I am muting her, and I've got our next guest, Mr. Tokunbo Akande, who is the special advisor to the executive chairman of LIRS. He is a seasoned banker, turned tax administrator with a considerable contribution to tax reform initiatives at both state and national levels. And he is here to talk us through the taxation steps and the benefits. Now, the reason that I say benefits is because I want to know, are there any benefits for me to pay my tax? Because a lot of people want to avoid paying it, but do they know what's in it for them? Okay, and I want to know, there's so many things I want to know, like what's the advantages? Do I get fined if I'm found, if I find out I'm not paying? Is there a difference between a business name and a limited liability in terms of tax processes as well? And then let's talk a little bit about being a lockdown. What if I've just created a business name now and I think I want to just register my business and I want to pay my taxes online? Is that something that we can do? And then special tax brackets for freelancers, MSMEs. How is this tax calculated? Do you know what? Mr. Akande, I have 100 questions for you. How are you?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and Fade as well. It's good to be here so that I can provide clarification on some of these issues that I know most entrepreneurs find a bit difficult to discuss. Compliance issues generally in Nigeria has been something that most people like to put at the back end. But ideally, if it's made easy for everyone, I think it's something that we need to just quickly cross the T's and dot the I's so that we can move on and do our business, because tax is something that we can't escape from. It's for all entities in any jurisdiction. That's a boundary, a political boundary. And like Georgette clearly stated, you can register a company or an enterprise using either a limited liability option, or you can have a PLC, or you can have a business name. Now, when you have a business name, it's akin or similar to what you have in partnership. The partnership or the business name itself is not tax liable, but the owners are tax liable. Now, okay, the business name which you have, which most people will have here, is also supposed to have a book of accounts so that we can see how the flow of revenue is going to the business owners, because essentially what the taxman does is just to follow the money. So it's you make life easier for the taxman and for yourself if you have proper books of accounts, so that we can just go through it, agree on it, and then we can sort that one later. What are the advantages of paying taxes? Now, I'm sure we are all encouraged by what we have seen so far from the Lagos State government's response to the COVID issue. And I can tell you that, you see, donations are good, but they are not what you need to run a government. And no matter how good your intentions are, if you don't have funds and revenue, you won't be able to do it. So like some people say, your vision becomes just ordinary dream. So essentially, taxes are what keeps society running for us to keep it the way it is. And we need to recognize the fact that without taxes, really, most societies won't be what they are. And the primary responsibility of every society is to guarantee safety of life and property, then create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. Because also, if businesses don't thrive, there won't be anywhere to collect taxes. Like, let me make a clarification here. Taxes are on profits and income. If you don't generate profit, then there's nothing to tax. If you don't have income, then there's nothing to tax. So it is the interest of the government and the tax authority that your businesses thrive. So once we have that agreement, then it makes it easier for us to see how best we can make it easy and least expensive for you to comply. So the issue is compliance here. There are punishment for compliance. There are penalties and fines. And the truth of the matter is that most tax authorities will rather have voluntary compliance than go after people, because the cost of even recovering it is high.
Mm.
You get it now. Both for the tax administrators, which is the state, which because the state will eventually buy it, and even the business owners themselves. Because take it in Nigeria, typically, if you don't pay your tax, you get a penalty of 10%, and then then you pay interest at prevailing commercial banking rate. By the time, how many businesses will make profit in excess of 30% of their turnover? You understand what I'm saying? So it is not really what one's while not to comply. However, we understand the fact that, you see, because of the business cycle, you have issues with cash flow. So, but those are things that ideally the tax administrators, along with the business owners, can find a way around, because there is no hard and fast. Yes, there are some what we call statutory provisions that says certain things should be done at this time, at this time. But if there's an engagement between both parties, that between this period, I'm having this particular challenge, which of course can be verified by anybody, then of course you can have a situation where you can kind of have a kind of instrumental program where you can eventually pay over a time that is convenient for both your business, which is the primary thing, and yourself as a business owner. If I've talked about tax, the advantage of paying taxes, because it's the legal thing to do. It is statutory and it's also constitutional. So if we understand that from that angle, then it will be easier for us. Now, we talked about, do we have automated tax services? The answer is yes, in Lagos State.
Okay.
Now,
good
yes.
to know.
So I need to provide that clarification. Then, okay, I think it's also important for me to make clarifications on some issues. There are peculiar obligations for you as an individual, and then as an employer of labor.
Yeah.
Which is, then also, we have different categories of employers of labor now, like Georgette has clarified. If it's a business name, and if it is a limited liability entity. Now, as long as you employ somebody, you are an employer of labor, you have an obligation to ensure that that person is tax compliant. How do you do it? Now, there's what we call the payee scheme, which is pay as you earn.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is that it is the easiest form of tax admin that we have in the market, because you are sort of withholding the tax due on the amounts that the person has earned and remitting it to the state authority, so that they can keep a record of the fact that X amount has been paid to Mr. A, whilst Y, which is the tax due on the X amount, has been remitted to the tax authority. So the person is deemed to be compliant by the year end, and when he or she needs maybe a certification. Now, so that you have, then you also have an obligation yourself to file your own tax returns. It's called direct assessment. That's the one that we extended recently due to the COVID pandemic problem. Within 90 days after the closure of your after December 31st, you need to file the details of all your income from all sources. Then also, you now state also all your expenses. You see, and it's now for the tax authority to determine those expenses that are allowed and those ones that are not allowed. And then the balance of the amount is what the tax authorities will now subject to the tax table. We will get to how to calculate tax later. It's as simple as ABC. So I don't think it's something anybody should worry too much about.
Sorry, sir, Mr. Akande.
Yes,
I just, for the sake of not overwhelming people, I like to break it down, and I like to make it really personal. So I am a makeup artist.
Good.
And I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios so that people can really understand the variety of what's the services available. So I'm a makeup artist and I'm a freelancer, and that's it. I don't have anybody, I don't have an assistant, I don't have anything. And scenario one, I haven't registered as a business name. I'm just a university student and I'm just doing that as a side hustle, just to, you know, be able to feed myself and go and jai small. That's it, right? Do I pay taxes? So I do makeup for my neighbor, somebody that shares a dorm room with me, and she's giving me 10K to do makeup. At the end of the month, let's say 10 people do that and I make 100K. Do I need to pay tax on that 100K?
Now, you have an obligation because the state must that's a challenge we have when the government was trying to do some of these palliatives now, because the state must be able to know that you exist.
Okay.
So because you are doing some businesses within the state as well, and you have records, you need to keep records of this business that you have so that you can see and know that also that it is profitable for you. Because if you don't keep records, you may not know where you are just, before you know, you'll be doing something that is not really profitable for you. Now, what you need to do as a freelancer is that because you are earning you are doing some entrepreneurial work, you are earning some income from it. But don't forget, you also have your expenses. So what you need to do at the end of your financial year, which is January to December, because there is a constitutional provision that says every resident, not citizen now, every resident that is economically active should file a tax return. It does not mean that you will pay tax, because eventually you might end up having zero amounts as your so-called margin. You understand? So you may end up not paying anything really. But the truth of the matter is that in Nigeria as of today, at the personal income tax level, which is handled at the state level, the range of tax rate that you have is between 1% and maximum 19%. You can't 18.75, 19. So on every 100 naira margin that you have, you can't pay more than 19 naira. But you won't pay less than 1 naira either. But the Finance Act has made it easier for people, for the SMEs, that even if your turnover now is less than 25 million, you don't even pay annually. You don't even pay anything. It's zero. For SMEs that are registered as limited liability, you understand? Because we must differentiate between. Georgette has told us that, because at that you will pay, that's income tax. That's for corporate income tax is different from personal income tax.
Yeah.
So for business names, you don't have corporate income tax, but you have personal income tax. The range is between 1% and, like I said, 18.75 thereabout. So now, for corporate income tax, the range is actually from, I think they have 0.5% as the minimum tax. But also there's an overriding provision that says that if your turnover is less than 25 million annually, it is zero.
Okay.
So, but if your turnover is between 25 million and less than 100 million, you pay 20%. What we're trying to do is to have a kind of convergence with what you have at the personal income tax level. But if your turnover is in excess of 100 million, then you pay at the going rate of 30%. That's what we have as for. So it depends on where your business fits into. But if it's a business name, then it will come under personal income tax, which will be handled by us, Lagos Internal Revenue Service or Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, wherever. But if it's a limited liability company, then the profits of that company will be subjected to company income tax, which will be paid to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Now, don't forget, as shareholder or as employee, executive director of, you have some earnings from the company. Your earnings from the company will be treated under personal income tax. But whatever amount has been paid to you is an allowable expense under company income tax. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I need to, okay, this is where I'm just like, okay. Ooh, I like to scenario it.
Okay, if you pay yourself salary, the salary that you pay to yourself.
Company? As a limited company?
Yes, if you pay yourself salary, the salary that you have paid to yourself is an allowable expense.
Yes.
Which you can net off your revenue stream.
Yes.
At the company income tax calculation. But the amount that you have paid yourself will be subjected to personal income tax.
Okay, let me break it down to everyone in case they're missing that. I get it now. So we've given scenario one, which is like you're a university student and it's your hobby. So really and truly, you should just go and file for the taxes yourself. But the likelihood of LIRS coming after you, first of all, they don't even know you. So it's unlikely. Scenario number two is you're a business name. And that's majority of what people do when they start as an entrepreneur. They start out, the first thing they do is register as a business name. Now you have a business name and you are a baker or you're a makeup artist, you're a photographer, and the business, the company is making money. Like maybe you've got 5 clients in a day and you're making 50K per client. So that's 250K that you're making a day. Excuse me. But in a month, you've decided my salary is going to be 100K. That is my salary that I'm paying myself in a month, even though my business is making 250K in a day. So whatever your company then makes at the end of the month, so whatever millions, let's say that comes to, my math isn't great, but let's just say it comes to 20 million, 30 million, then that is the corporate tax that you would pay of that 30 million. Personal income tax will then be what you pay off your 100K salary at the end of the month. Even though you're the owner of the business and your company is already paid tax, you yourself have to pay your personal income tax.
Income tax, yes, absolutely correct.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah. So now, like I said, how is it calculated? It's a graduated scale that we have in Nigeria for personal income tax. For people who earn less than aggregate of 300,000, they'll probably pay just 1%.
Okay.
Now, there's provision for some what you call considerable relief allowance. Allowances are there to actually cater for some expenses which the tax authority and government thinks that they are bound to happen, that you have to pay in the course of the year. So it's to give you a kind of, it will reduce your tax liability. And then the balance that you have will be, which will be your accessible income, will not be subjected to the tax table. And like I said, it starts from 7% in the first 300,000. Then the next 300,000 suffers 11% as well. Then the next 500,000, that's cumulatively. So it means if after you have deducted all the allowable allowances for yourself as an individual, the balance that you have, the X amount that you have as a balance, will now be subject to the tax table. The tax table, like I said, you start from the 7%, 11%, 15, 19, 21, and 24. But the effect of that is that you will not pay in this country, Nigeria, more than 19% on as an individual. You cannot pay more than, if any calculation shows you anything beyond that, then it is wrong. But you also not pay less than 1%, which is the minimum tax. That's at the individual level. At the corporate level, I've explained this because of the new Finance Act, which has given some concession to SMEs and what have you. So that one is also very straightforward. Do you have obligation to pay taxes on behalf of your staff? I think they have given the answer. It is yes, because you also want to employ people that are tax compliant. Regulatory issues are important here for any business, even for to thrive and then to maintain a good, in terms of corporate governance. So you have an obligation to pay taxes on behalf of those people that are working for you. Then the withholding tax that you hammered on before is also that you ensure that those people that are doing business with you are also tax compliant. That's the idea behind it. It's not a different type of tax. It's just an advanced form of tax, because when you withhold, just like you do for people you pay salary, you call payee. When somebody has done a contract, yes, the person should come and supply you furniture, and he has given you a bill of $1 million, and then you now withhold 5% out of it. That is 50,000. That 50,000 that you have paid on his behalf, it's a tax credit for him, not for you. So it's when he is now filing his own returns in the new year, it will now present that as taxes that I have paid to reduce whatever tax liability the tax authority
Can
has generated on his behalf. Yes,
I wanted to, in my experience as an entrepreneur, running a couple of businesses, the withholding tax, I've had a few companies saying that, yes, they will pay it on our behalf. But then the issue that we always face is that they never have any paperwork to show that they've paid it. And they say that the paperwork is not released until, but you know how it works. Now the paperwork is not released until another 2 months or another 3 months. And by the time you're doing all of that business, you're going to forget to chase up that, is the paperwork ready yet? No. And then at the end of the year, we then have to put in our returns. And we're then like, oh, this company is meant to have paid this. And they say, oh, but do you have the paperwork? But it's just like, as soon as somebody pays that tax.
I can talk for LRS, and I think to a large extent also FRS. You see, like I said, we have a registration, a tax portal that allows you to register, to be assessed. You can even raise objection on it. Then you can effect payment and then generate your receipts. Receipts are issued instantaneously in Lagos. It has been like that for the past 10 years. Once payment is made, receipts are generated. The receipt for withholding tax, we show the person that has paid, and we also show the name of the person in whose favor the payment has been made. So people giving excuses that they don't have receipts, I don't think it is true in Lagos. It is not true, because your receipts can be generated immediately, and then it will show also that it is company X that is paying, that has been the agent of government withholding money from company Y or individual Y that has done this, whatever. So that's the way it works. So
I'm so glad that you've made that clear, and I'm recording this. So there's a few businesses that I'm going to send this to, like, excuse me. So the special advisor to the executive chairman of LIR said that the receipts are issued immediately. So give me my withholding tax receipt, please.
Once payments are made, the receipts are issued immediately, because for every payment made, you need to have a schedule of those people who are the beneficiaries, so that the accounts can be updated as well. That's the way, it operates in Lagos. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Is there any other point that you want to make before I start getting into the nitty-gritty and ask people asking questions?
Yeah, just a general appeal that you see. Essentially, we have a platform that is out there that people should try their hands on. It's called eTax, and you can access it from lrs.gov.ng. It allows you the whole spectrum of tax administration, which you can do at the comfort of your home. And if you have any issues, you even have a chat box by the side, which people can respond to immediately to all your inquiries and what have you. So really, it's that we have tried to make tax compliance as easy as possible. And also, like I said, all filing and everything is at zero cost to the taxpayer. What you're doing is just paying the government, and then it's a common pool, which we are all putting up, the Commonwealth, which we are all piling together for the trustees that we have, which is the government, to use it on our behalf. So there is no direct benefit to you as an individual for the tax that you pay. Like you were saying, that's the nature of taxes. We are putting everything together, and then we have elected some people to actually be our trustee, to act on our behalf, our trustee and our custodian. Then they will now use it for the benefit of each and every one of us. So what it does is that you see, if we all pay our taxes, I think we'll be all more interested in how it is utilized, and then we'll have better governance in the society.
Thank you. I've got a quick question from Hawa, and she wants to know, how do I know whether to file my tax with FIRS or LIRS? When would you know? What's the difference, and when should you file with FIRS instead of the local state?
Yeah, FIRS attends to corporate entities. So that is limited liability entities. Individuals, you have to file with in the states, which is LRS. Prior to this time, FIRS used to undo some aspects of personal income tax, which they still do for maybe the armed forces, the diplomatic, and then, yeah. But even and then they used to do for FCT before, but the FCT now has its own IRS, which handles personal income tax. So if you are filing as an individual, you file at the state level.
Okay. What about if you're a business name?
If your business name files also at the state level.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Because it's, yes, that's it.
Okay. Hawa, you seem like you have a few issues with tax. I've got you. So what does she say next? I consult for a company as a designer, and even though SMEs make them less than 25 million, they don't need to pay company income tax. My company is still being charged withholding tax. So how do SMEs avoid payment of withholding tax?
Now, I consult for a company as a designer, and even though SMEs, okay, good. Now, what she has now is that the company is bound to withhold that money there. It's a tax credit for her.
Okay.
It's a tax credit for her. When she's filing her returns, she will show evidence that, well, this amount has even been deducted from me. So what the state will do, if as a consultant, it could be a partnership, I don't really know, she's not being clear about that. But if it's a partnership, it will show eventually the partnership will have its own account, and it will show the shares of the profit to each partner as well. And then they can also, the partners will now be in a position to use that credit to offset their personal income tax liability. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So what I wanted to go over quickly, just to clarify, is because I know taxing might seem a bit daunting as an entrepreneur. Majority of the people on this platform right now, I believe, are either freelancers that don't have any registration, or I'd say majority are just business names. Those that might have a limited liability are probably on the lower end of the bracket.
Okay, so let's concentrate on personal income tax then.
So a lot of people say, why? I'm so confused. It's very, very simple. You have business tax, personal tax. Personal tax is almost like salary. Let's just say like that, right? So that you guys understand. So you could be a business owner, but what people don't, as an entrepreneur, you need to run your business in the way that you have a set view. You can't say somebody paid you 1 million for a job and you're going to blow that 1 million. Somebody else paid you 10K for a job and you blow that 10K. So you must have a set amount that, okay, I'm paying myself X amount every month, 50K, 100K, 200K, whatever it is. That is, and then everything else that you make, it is for the business. So then when you're paying yourself a salary, let's say you're paying yourself 100K a month or 150K, that is your personal income tax. And that is the one where if you're paying yourself less than 300K in a year, then your personal income tax is about 1%.
Yeah.
So the more you pay yourself in a year, the more your personal income tax is. And that is just simply from showing your bank statement. Okay, on the 30th of every month, I pay myself 100K. So in a year, I've made 1.2 M. That is my personal salary. But your business at the end of the year could have made 20 million, 30 million. It could have even made less than that, 5 million, 500K, whatever it is. And that's why your bookkeeping needs to be on point so that they can actually show that, yes, you're not lying and saying that, oh, my business only made 100K this year when it's actually made 100 million. So that's why you need to show your books. Now, taking on from there, I wanted to just say that because of some of the issues that I faced as a producer and working with freelancers, is why I came up with Bookings Africa. So I wanted to potentially discuss a solution with you, and you let me know your thoughts on that. So Bookings Africa is a website and an app where we operate in Nigeria and South Africa and Kenya. And it connects millions of customers directly to African talent, African freelancers. So you're talking about people that are hairdressers, makeup artists, dancers, DJs, the informal gig sector. Now, listeners, my attendees, the informal sector, I've mentioned this throughout the week. If you haven't, if you've just joined us, then the informal sector is the sector that the government consider basically unemployed. Formal is you have a formal job, so they can track your earnings. So the informal sector actually makes up almost 70% of Africa. Not even just of Nigeria, of Africa. But now this 70%, that's like almost like under 1 billion people. So let's say 800 million people across Africa are considered, I'm pulling out a number, right, are all the informal sector. Now, these guys, at least 60 to 70% of these so-called unemployed people actually have jobs, but they are just not in the system. It's not formalized, it's not systematic, where the government can say, yes, your full-time job is a hairdresser. You don't have to be an accountant to be in the formal sector, or a banker, or a lawyer, or an engineer. No, you can be a dancer, and that is your full-time job. But are you registered and you recognized as that is your form of income? So you can't just tell people, oh, I'm a dancer, book me. If you want the government to recognize that that is how you're making your living, you have to register that, which is why we've been talking about the legalities behind that, right? Now, moving forward from that, because I'm solution minded, I then thought, is there a way where we can automate this process so anybody who's on my platform, their financial records, their bookkeeping is done for them automatically. So now you go on my platform, you say, sir, after Corona, oh, I need a haircut. And because you don't want to go to the barber, you want a barber to come to you. The barber comes to you, he's sanitized, he's got his mask, his gloves. When you book him, an invoice for that barber on our platform is automatically generated. As soon as the job is completed, you then go from invoice to paid receipt. So we then can calculate if that barber gets 20 bookings in 1 month, and maybe that each job is 1 hour or 2 hours. We can say in a month, this barber has worked 40 hours and this has generated him 200K. Then we can then say, do you want your tax paid at the end of this month on this 200K? They can choose yes, no. If they choose yes, I would love a process where it could just be automated, remitted, just like this withholding tax. But rather than paying it annually, they can almost do like a pay as you earn. So we're now doing, so it's freelancers and everybody on the platform, we would then be able to that would be my dream, because right now we're already providing the automated bookkeeping services. So when you book the barber, you can see their portfolio, you can see ratings and reviews from other clients, you see their pricing, so you can see I only want a barber that is 10K or less, and all the barbers that are available on June 2nd, they will all show up. And then you can then book and pay for who you want. So one barber should have one identification number that is linked to your system. So that way they can then decide, do you know what? Every time I get booked on Bookings Africa, at least I know my bookkeeping and my financial records and everything is in order. So at the tap of a button, the barber will then just go on their dashboard. And if they need to go to a bank or they need to go, and they can just pull up all their records and say, here you go. Here's my proof, here's everything. And so they're not looking through paper. They're not saying, this one didn't get stamped. There was a signature missing. I did, So I like to be, especially now that we're in such an unprecedented season where we have to now we're forced to do things like this online. I'm thinking, is there a way that maybe we could have this conversation that could enable myself and help you?
Yes, you just nailed it on the head. I can tell you now that despite all the reforms we have put in place in Lagos over the past almost 15 years now, it's the challenge we've had with the informal sector. And the Mr. Governor just even approved another process for us recently, which of course couldn't kick off because of this COVID while. But essentially, what I'm saying is this: what you have just talked around is what we've been thinking about all these years. It's something that we would like to work on. It will be easy for us. It will be easy for you. It will also be easy for the entrepreneurs, because essentially what we want to do is, at the end of the day, compliance should be made as easy and as, if much cheaper than the penalty that we have for those people who decide not to comply. And if we're able to bring as many people as possible on board, have them regularized, you get it now. Aside from paying taxes, they will have opportunities of accessing all the government's intervention programs to help. I can tell you, the Lagos State government recently, for those people on the Employment Trust Fund, it has suspended even the payment of their monthly, there's a moratorium of about 3 months on what they're supposed to pay. Do you get it now? And that's a way of easing the process for everyone.
Yeah.
Do you get it now? And those are the kind of things that I think we can partner with everyone, create the kind of environment that will let businesses thrive. They can also enjoy some other facilities from government. And then, of course, also we have partners at the multilateral level who can also provide funding arrangement that will also help them retain their business and whilst as well growing it, if they don't really want to go public or go the limited liability way. So it is something that we would like to maybe partner with you on, and then we can look through it and see how it will be a win-win for all sides.
I think
but
so.
Most especially for the taxpayers and the entrepreneurs, and then we'll see whatever government can get from, because essentially the things that we need to formalize most of these activities. Once it is formalized, then government will be in a position to know where they can assist to make the businesses grow. And I think if we look at it from that angle, not only from the tax angle, maybe we'll have more people to get on board.
Exactly, because I always say that it's not that we don't want to pay, it's just that sometimes the knowledge and the ease of doing the business is off-putting. If I have to go and queue in a line for 3 hours, and then it's gonna turn me off. So I definitely think let's explore that. Speaking of LSETF, they're actually partnered with Bookings Africa. So LSETF is one of our partners. So I know Teju and Tosin, Faniro Dada, and everyone. So they've partnered with Bookings Africa. So now a lot of entrepreneurs, if you get booked on Bookings Africa, because of the automated bookkeeping, the automated records, you're now more likely to get a loan from LSETF because they can actually prove that you are a full-time DJ or dancer or voiceover artist or makeup artist. So thank you so much, sir. That was very, very enlightening. Pleasure. I think you've demystified a lot of things. I'm gonna just take about 3 questions and then I will let you get on with the rest of your evening. So Moran Niker just wants to quickly know, is there a difference between a credit note and the actual receipt? Please clarify if the receipt can be used to get the tax relief benefit, or do you have to present the actual credit note?
No, the receipt serves as a credit note because what the receipt shows, it will show, we are talking about withholding taxes now, the entity that is paying and in favor of whom, which is the entrepreneur now, and the amount paid, and for which purpose. So once you have all those, once you present your receipt, it serves as a credit note, and then you just a copy of when you are filing your returns, so we can adopt it. Of course, at the back end, we have records to validate every receipt issued. So we know that this amount X has been paid in favor of this person for this particular transaction. So it's something that we can always validate at our end. So it serves that purpose. Yes, please.
I've got a couple of people asking about allowables. So somebody said, what are allowables? And Adefemi says, what exactly are the allowables for personal income tax?
Okay, for personal income tax, let's separate it from business now.
Okay.
Yeah, at the level of your drawings or salaries from the business enterprise, we treat it as your salary. You get it now. So the allowables that you have there is what we call the consolidated relief allowance, and it is very simple. the total amount that, the aggregate amount that you have, you subject it to 20% of it, plus 200,000 is granted as consolidated relief allowance, CRA. Then there are about 5 other allowances that are granted that are actually statutory. If you have made contribution to pension, it is allowable. If you have the national health insurance, it is also, if you subscribe to it and you can show that it's for yourself and your immediate family and children of less than 18, it's allowable. You have, I've talked about life assurance. Now, life assurance is different from some of these savings schemes that insurance companies are selling as life assurance. You must differentiate between the two. A life assurance is a premium that you pay for, should in case the insured person expires. Do you get it now? So the activating event is the transition of the insured person. So that one is also allowable. Okay, we have gratuities. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. I think I've given you about 5 of them, yes. So if you have subscription to all those things that I've talked about, then it is allowable.
Okay.
Now,
so let me just read. So go ahead. So just to clarify to the listeners, allowables are things that you're allowed to use your money that's not going to be deducted, as it's not going to be charged in the tax. So if you're making 100,000 naira or 300,000 or let's say 1 million naira in a year, that's your annual salary, and you're normally meant to pay tax on that 1 million. However, and that out of that 1 million naira, you've put some money and put it towards your pension. You've put some money towards your health care. You've put some, so allowing you to take out of your salary to pay for these gratuities. So let's say out of that 1 million, the money then turns out to be 700,000 in the year because you've put 300,000 towards these gratuities. Then the income tax will then only be on that 700,000. So it applies to am I right?
No, you've missed one very important one, the CRA, the very first one, which is the Consolidated Relief Allowance. Yeah, the 20% of your 1 million, which is 200,000, plus another 200,000 will be deducted from the 1 million. Then you will now deduct all those other subscriptions that we have done that are allowable.
So that's 400,000 plus 300,000. So that's 700,000. So it's actually only on the 300,000 that you're
now
getting
you're now
taxed.
Subject to, you get taxed on.
That's free now.
So
income.
I thought that's why Nigeria is all. It's like a tax haven. Nigeria is like a tax haven compared to other territories and jurisdictions. That's the honest truth.
On personal income tax, but 30 on business is, it's not.
Okay.
If you're talking about a business, yes, let's not talk about offshore because tax haven for a business, for personal, yes.
Personal income. I'm talking about personal income tax, yes.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So let's just take a couple more questions.
Yes, please.
So I think there's a few things that people can do online. How I just want to calculate and pay the amount. How can I do that? Go online. Somebody says, Emeka says, I want to get a TIN, your tax identification number, as a business name. Can I get it online without the hassle of going to the LIRS office?
Yes, TIN is generated automatically from the CSA platform because it's connected. You see, the TIN that we have now is a JTB TIN, is a Joint Tax Board TIN, that is a single number for every entity, individual or corporate entity, that you can use at federal level and in all the states of the federation.
Okay.
So there's a single TIN number. Yes, Lagos still run what you call the payer ID, but payer ID is like a legacy number like you have in the banks before you have the, they had the 10-number series. You understand? The banks now have a 10-number series which they use everywhere, but they still have their legacy numbers which runs maybe in the background. So the
BVN and then the...
So no, the BVN is used to validate the TIN.
Yes, okay.
The TIN that you will generate from the JTB platform, which all the state's internal revenue services are linked up to.
I'm getting it.
We will use BVN because it's the most credible Yeah, it's the most credible identity management database that we have in Nigeria as of today. That's the honest truth. So we will use it to validate the information you've provided for on the TIN platform. So that singular TIN can be used, and that's what you need to even use at your bank and things like that. So that's the way it works now. So, before, most state governments have their own different numbers which we're using. Yes, so, separate tax identity numbers that we were using. Yes, but we have now consolidated into one.
Okay.
Into one single one, which is administered by the Joint Tax Board.
So talk me through this. If Emeka goes online to the lirs.gov.ng website, he's got his business name, and the business name has a registered number, the RC number. If he puts that in, is there a way that they would generate his TIN number automatically so he knows what it is? So he can get it from the...
Yes, it can be done. Once he can key in the information from the CAC.
Okay,
we'll get Emeka, get a number for him.
There you go. Your answer is yes. Visit the website. Hawaz says, as an individual operating a business, I want to pay my personal income tax. How do I go about doing that? I think you can do that online.
It is online. You just go to lrs.gov.ng. You have the e-tax platform, which you can access from there. There you can complete your registration, like I said. So then the assessment, based on what we can raise the assessment for you. If you have objection, you can object so that we can then respond to you. Then we can now effect payments, which we can also do online, and then receipts will be issued automatically for you.
We've got a cheeky attendee.
Yes.
Adefemi, he says, what if you've been using a major part of your earnings, your personal income, to set up a new business? Would that be an allowable?
No, there must be full disclosure.
It's called wishful thinking.
Yeah, because we need to separate the entities from, that's why I think Georgette was quite clear on that. You as a person, you are different from your business entity. You will first pay tax on the income which we have earned. If you will now get benefits, if for any reason the government decides to run a scheme that allows for a kind of reimbursement when you invest in some green areas, you understand that the government wants to promote. That's a different thing entirely. Tax is based on law and existing statutes, yes.
Okay, so that comes to the end of this. If we haven't answered your questions, I've seen a few people have sent me some personal messages. So what I'm going to do, sir, if you don't mind, I will collate. I'm going to try and answer as many as I can if I have the information. If I don't, I'll collate as much of the information and I could send that to you or maybe a member of your team. And then, yes, you could just help me answer that, so that, because I feel like I said, the aim of this specific topic was to demystify. Let's make it a bit more approachable. Let's make it, people just understand, okay, I understand how this works now. I understand what I need to do. And even if I need help, I know that there's a very useful, effective website that actually is a practical tool where you can calculate your taxes, whether it's business, whether it's personal. So visit the website once again, sir, if you repeat it for us.
Yeah, it's www.lrs.gov.ng. lrs.gov, yes, .ng. That's it.
So at the end of, sorry, go ahead.
And then you have the e-tax platform where you can do all this registration and everything and get it done. There's a chat box by the side so that if you have challenges in going from step 1 to step 2, you have people there 24/7 that are ready to provide assistance in getting you through.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It was an honor and a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much to Charles again, who's the CEO of SME 100. He actually connected us so that we'll be able to have this session together. And we'll speak offline regarding the synergy between Bookings Africa and LIRS. Exactly. I think that would be, it would solve a lot of issues for the freelancers and also for the government as well. So I'm glad I could be of service. And once again, I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Okay. So you guys, you're back with me. And I want to basically thank everybody for sticking with me for the past, 5 days. I can't believe that it's gone so quickly. And I've actually had a lot of fun. I've learned a lot, and I hope you guys have too. So I just wanted to give you guys, like, I always like to do my roundup, just to give you my experience when it came through to everything from my legal experience and also my taxing experience. So we'll start with the legal. I want to go back to the funny story that Georgette mentioned when she highlighted the importance of copywriting. So before I launched bookingsafrica.com, I, of course, was, Georgette, actually, I'll unmute you for this one so we could have a chit chat. So
Yeah.
before, obviously, I was working with Film Factory as a producer, and I have, yesterday, actually, I have a YouTube channel, a personal YouTube channel, Fadeo Goro, and I don't put a lot of content up on there. It's just, even though I'm a producer, but yeah, I still have this weird thing, like, just don't want too much intrusion on my life, but I always like to put out informative information. So a few years ago, I think it was around 2014, I was hiring my first ever personal assistant, and I thought, do you know what, I want to document this whole entire process, of which I did. So I think I started filming maybe about March in 2014, and I finished filming it around June, July. And I remember then I edited it and I put it out on my YouTube channel. I released it on my YouTube channel January 2015. As soon as I put it out on my YouTube channel, a very popular actress hit me up and she DM'd me on Twitter and I said, girl, and this is how I'm guessing she speaks in her head. Hey, Charlie, you better put that, take that picture, that video down. And I was like, why? Like, what's the problem? Like, that is a copyright infringement. My lawyers have told me that I too am doing a show about assistant search, and you cannot have the same name. And apparently she's registered her business in Nigeria and in Ghana and where all these different places. And I was like, okay, no problem. I'm going to speak to my lawyers too, because I know that I did everything, the right way. I thought, as far as I was concerned anyways. So I'd put in a copyright, and that copyright was to protect the content. Because if you think of a lot of TV shows, think of The Voice, American Idol, Britain's Got Talent. A majority of these TV shows, they're pretty much the same thing. They're a singing competition, Project Fame, and This One's Got Talent, Glow Niger Sings, Airtel, whatever. They're all pretty much the same. It's a singing competition show where you have one winner and they win some, whether it's a record label or a record deal, or they win money. So now the actual content has to be very specific to show how you are going to differentiate your one singing show from the other singing show, right? So that's part of what the copyright is about, because there's no idea that's brand new. That's when you probably need a patent. But majority of the time, a copyright, if it's some type of idea, some type of body of work, you're not going to be the only person that has written about or thought about doing something like that or created that body of work. But it's also good to have that, because then it's like you're the winner of the race. You're the one that copyrighted it first. That's number one. Then, of course, I also trademarked the name, and the personal assistant search was the name. So eventually, just to fast forward to how we resolved it, it turns out that my lawyers, I had the hard drive of where the first day that I started filming. And in the hard drive, you've got what you call your metadata. So if you're anybody that's a techie out there, you know what I'm talking about, metadata, where it actually tells you the date, that the original, like a date and timestamp. When was this product, when was this visual created? And that cannot be changed, it cannot be forged, it cannot be edited. It's something that is just automatic. So luckily, I had one proof that I'd filmed my project before hers, I'd copyrighted my project before hers, and I'd also trademarked the name. So by the time I was done, I did a counter sue, because she wanted to sue me for 10 million naira. And I did a counter sue for 100 million naira. Say, do you know what? First of all, this is this is all my data to show that this is my property. And to take it even further, if you use the word personal or assistant in your own show, I'm suing you for 100 million. So if you want to call, because obviously I know, like, it's The Voice or, glowing, America's Got Talent, and even though it's the same, or American Idol and The Voice, they're a singing competition, right? But so you can't have two shows that are similar, and one's called The Voice and another one's called, you know, The Voice Off. Like, it doesn't make sense, and they're both a singing show, so it's too close for comfort. So I then said, do you know what, I'm still going to give you blessing to do whatever show that you want, but this name is mine. Best believe till today, that's it. That was a myth. It was like I said, some things are just like fairies. You just hear about them, you never see them. So that was just something that made me sit up, because it was the first time that I was being sued. And of course, because my company was registered as a business at the time, it wasn't, my business was registered under just a business name. So now I didn't have the protection of, you're trying to sue my company and not me personally. So I couldn't even have a representative go to court. Like, because they're suing me, I would have to have been the one to show up, and, you know, just, I wouldn't have been able to escape the lawsuit. But luckily, you know, everything got nullified, and, you know, it's bridge under the water. But yeah, that's just something very internal that I've never shared. And there's so many things that I just don't share. If you know what happens in this industry, I just don't share any of it.
But actually, like, I'm actually really glad, Fadi, that you brought this up, because it's something that we deal with as lawyers a lot of the time. And what you're actually speaking of when it comes to TV is actually something called formats, because what you're describing is the format of your show. Yep. And format protection is an area of law that is very dicey. It's still not completely certain, because it doesn't necessarily fall into a distinctive bucket in our laws, even in England. I think recently they had to amend, you know, their Copyright Act in relation to formats, and there was case law that had to come in to jump in to deal with the void, because we're not dealing with the scripts. It's not strictly a script. It's literally content about, you know, lights, camera, action, what's happening, the stage of the show, who's involved in the show, how many producers, how many directors. It's an idea for a show, pretty much. So it's quite challenging. So in Nigeria, the closest thing that we thought of, even internally at Olanu Ajayi, was about it being some form of literary work. That was the best that we could do, because typically scripts usually form under that category of literary work. So yeah, formats are tough. The best thing for you is just to go and register that at the NCC. And what you said, actually, Friday, which is really critical, was about access. You had evidence to show that you started before her. You had evidence to show that you had registered, you know, the idea that you had for the show before her. And more importantly, she didn't have access to your work, or you didn't have access to her work. So how can she say that you copied her? Because like you said, there's no new idea under the sun for a show. And just as a way of quick fact check for all of you, there are about 7 known themes, ideas for movies, only 7 in this entire world. And all we see around are just varied forms of those things. So there's always a romantic movie. There's always some sort of sci-fi thriller. There's always a murder mystery. There's always some form of war trilogy. So you have to understand that there's no new idea. The idea is just that, how does that director bring it to life? And how do you do the best thing you can to protect your work? So
awesome. Yeah, I think they're very valid points. So it's just something for you guys to think about. Now, that was just a bit of tea for y'all to sip on. I'll just quickly move on to my journey registering Bookings Africa. So I registered Bookings Africa as a business name in 2016, I believe. I registered the domain in 2016, and beginning of 2016, towards the end of the year, I registered the business name. And then I didn't really do anything about it. I just thought, let me just have that name so it's just not taken. Then in 2018, when I decided to actually start the business properly and actually start putting my business plan together and seeing if I could raise funds through a VC, I still didn't even think about the legalities behind just having a business name. Up until September, I met Dr. Toye and the Platform Capital Group. I met them in end of August. So in September, when they're doing all their compliance and their due diligence, and they're asking me for all my records, like literally I have to send them that business name. They said, when you open your business name, the bank account, we want from the first day that you opened up the bank account till today, we want every single transaction. Now, I'm very guilty of, at the time, you pay me 5 million for a TV production and I've spent 2 million on it and I have 3 million. I'm jumping on a plane deuces, I'm buying a new bag, I'm buying a new shoe. I wasn't thinking of, I did pay yourself 500K a month or 300K a month or whatever it was, 150K a month. I wasn't thinking of that. I was just thinking my profit is mine. Nobody's checking me to do anything. So I didn't have any accountability. So I wasn't saving. I wasn't doing anything. I was just making money, spending it, making money, spending it. Because, you know, that's just, as a freelancer at the time, and probably a bad business manager at the time, and I wasn't really thinking of, you know, being accountable to somebody like a venture capitalist where they'll need to see all my records. So when they sat me down, it was such a humbling experience, and they go into like, okay, so your business, could you explain why there's 900 pounds on shoes from Gucci? What did you need that for? A shoot or something? Like what? No, I just wanted to buy a pair of shoes. So they then really explained to me the importance of separating your business life and your personal life, that they cannot mix. So now I had to pay myself a salary. So I started to pay myself a salary from October. And I now have a joint signatory on the account. So someone like Bamile, who if you were here in day one where we were talking about business plan, Bamile is my strategy director, and he's also a co-signatory on my bank account. So that means I cannot just go to, you can't just say, if they give me 5 million now and I'm like, yeah, it's in my Bookings Africa account. Here you go, let me do a transfer. Ping, no. So Bamile also has to, I have to authorize it. Bamile has to approve it. Nothing goes through the books. Nothing goes in and out of the account without there being an accountability factor. And that's one of the benefits of having, well, some people think it's a benefit, some people can think it's the worst thing, but when you're trying to raise money professionally through the route of having a venture capitalist, these are the sort of things that you should also expect. Now, when I then found out that I was a business name, when they found out I was a business name, I needed to now not move over, but open up a brand new company, which is now the Limited. So I now have bookingsafrica.com Limited. And that one, I actually opened up late last year, around November, December last year. So the thing is, you can't have shares in a company of a business as a sole, because you're a sole proprietor when you have a business name. So you can't be a sole proprietor owning a business by yourself. That means you can't have shares in it. Nobody else can own it other than you. And then yet you want to sell that to somebody else when the whole point of a business name means that you are the owner of it. Do you see what I'm saying? So because of that, venture cap, if you go into the route of raising money through an investor, you have to have a limited liability company, and that also protects the company, the business, against like lawsuits and all of that as well. And before they would even give me my money, so the investments that they said they would give me, they wouldn't pay it into a bank that is not a limited account. So I was just like, I had to hurry and open up a new bank account because I had to register my name. And because you have to register the name of the CAC with the Corporate Affairs Commission. And then that takes a couple of weeks, and then when the documentation then comes out, then you've got to go to the bank with that documentation to then open the bank account. And then that takes a few weeks as well. And then the bank, then they could pay me my money. And I was just like, listen, if I had known this from the onset, I would have just opened up a limited liability company, because I already knew when I started raising funds back in like 2018 that this is a route that I'd wanted to do. So I wish I had known in 2018 that in order to actually be considered by a VC seriously and actually be disbursed the funds that you want, that it actually has to be a limited company. I didn't know that in 2018, and that was just 2 years ago. So that's just something for you guys to think about in the meantime. And yeah, I'm paying taxes because the company officially went live in November. We have to do a whole annual, and they do January to December. So I guess in December this year is when I'll be filing for my first proper tax, and that would be company tax, and then also personal tax. And that personal tax, remember, is based on what I'm paying myself salary wise. So if my salary is 200K in a month, 200 times by 12 months, that's 2.4 million. And they say they take away 200 plus another 200, that's 400,000 off of the 2 million. That's 2 million. So then they're now paying tax off of 2 million naira. So yeah, Any questions for me? I'm just appreciating all of you guys that have been here for the past 5 days. If you've just joined us today, no problem. We will be sending out minutes of each masterclass of the entire 5 days. And we'll also be sharing the videos on YouTube. So do you guys have any questions at all? Does anybody want to speak to me one-on-one? I don't mind doing like a quick fire 2-minute chit chat. I can unmute you for a few minutes. A few people said they would like to reach me personally. All my contact details will be sent with the minutes of the meeting. Every single speaker, the best way to contact them will be available on the minutes of the meeting. So that could be their social media profile, their email, their phone number. Different people have different varying levels of comfort. So I would be providing my email and my LinkedIn. I'm sure you already follow me on social media. If you don't, please do. It's Fade Ogunro on Bookings Africa. Fade Ogunro on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and whatever other social media there is. I'm always just on TikTok. I recently joined TikTok, guys. So if you want to follow me on there, and of course, my business is Bookings Africa. So on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Pinterest, all that good stuff. We are Bookings Africa. Ogogo Idosa says, how do we sign up as talent on bookingsafrica.com? It's pretty simple, guys. So
sorry, Fadi. Hi, Fadi. Sorry, I just have to love and leave you all. I have a
problem.
Call but thank you all so much for your time. And like Fadi said, I'll definitely give her my contact information, my email, and my social media handle for you to reach out. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen so you guys can just see. If you just go to bookingsafrica.com. Are you seeing my screen right now, guys? Can you leave me a message if you're seeing it? Is that a yes? Okay. So bookingsafrica.com. Let me see, what are the messages you guys are saying? I don't want this to end. Okay, so Ogoga, I'm just quickly doing this for you. I'm going to log out. So now, this is the homepage on bookingsafrica.com, and you go to talent sign up. Can you see that over there? Talent sign up. And there you go, sign up as a talent, first name, blah, 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 blah. You press register. Once you press register, an email will be sent to your email address, an email confirmation. And that way you need to click that email confirmation and it will then take you to your portfolio. If you are the other way around and you want to book somebody, you can just say, okay, I'm looking for a comedian, a comparer, a dancer, a DJ, equipment rental, hairstylist. So these are all the services that we offer. Okay, you guys got that now? Any more questions? Where am I? Thank you very much, Georgette. Thank you very much, Mr. Akande. Emeka says, attribute it to yourself, and your very last example, elaborate and makes it very clear. Ochiba, you've been so resourceful, Fadi. Thanks. You're a darling, no jokes. Thanks for sharing from your wealth of experience and contacts. Thanks a million. You are welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for this workshop. It's quite an eye-opener. And what else do I have? For corporate accounts, please, what should a startup look out for in choosing the right bank? To be honest, I don't think it's really that much of a big deal right now. When you start making a lot of money, then you have negotiating power, and you can then negotiate with any bank, whether it's their interest rates. You can say, I don't want a 2% interest rate, I want 1.5 unless I'm moving to this other bank. So I'd say start making revenue, start making considerable revenue and profit, and then you can really look into the nitty gritty. I will always go for Access Bank just because they've partnered up with Bookings Africa. I know that they have a macro view on resolving the issues that I'm passionate about unemployment and formalizing the gig economy, and also the benefit of the partnership with Bookings Africa and Access Bank. If you're a talent and you sign up to Bookings Africa, when it's time for you to get paid, because you put in your bank account details and the whole system is automated. So a client books you, you do the job, boom, the money goes straight directly into your bank account. So let's say the job is 100,000 Naira. If you don't have an Access Bank account, if you're not getting paid into an Access Bank account, we keep 20% commission. However, if you're getting paid into an Access Bank account, then the partnership that we have means that we only charge you 10% commission. Does that make sense? So that means if you have 100,000 Naira as the job that you've done, you're a photographer and you're going to get paid 100,000 Naira. If we're paying that 100,000 Naira into an Access Bank account, then we keep 10,000 Naira. That is our commission. If you're not getting paid into an Access, it's 20,000 Naira that we keep, and we pay 80K into your account. So that's part of the benefits of, I'd say, Access Bank. And also their app is very easy to use, and they're also in a few other countries across Africa as well. So it's very easy, it's borderless for me to be able to do my transactions, which is beneficial for me and my goals. Mike Din, it's been a great week. Oladinra, thank you so much. I've learned so much. Maureen, thank you so much. Razor MVP, you're welcome. Ogechi says you've had a great week. It's very informative. You've learned a lot. You'll miss my voice. Thank you. Rosetta, you've learned a lot in a short time. That's exactly what I want you guys to do. Caleb, thank you so much. Everybody's just praising that it's been very resourceful. And I'm very, very glad that my objective has been reached. I really wanted to provide you guys with a masterclass that you can actually benefit from. There's masterclasses that are more like motivational talks, motivational sessions. And I feel like, okay, I just went to church. Did I actually learn anything? Hallelujah. Yes, I'm going to be a great entrepreneur. But then you come out and you don't actually have the tools to be able to make practical steps. And I thought, I wish there was a one-stop shop whereby if I had to rewind 2 years and I wanted to learn as much as I could in a week, what would I want to have learned? And I thought this is the best way that I could give back to the Bookings Africa community. So in order for you to reciprocate that, then all I'm asking is please download the app, please sign up, and please spread the word. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn, whichever platform you use. Support Bookings Africa. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And what another amazing thing about this is because you guys are now on our database, whenever we have a masterclass, we will then you'll be the first ones to know. So we will share the information about the upcoming masterclasses with you first. So you get to register before anybody else. And of course, when you sign up to Bookings Africa, you have access to all our partnerships and all the benefits. So if you want a loan from LSETF or Access Bank, we can help you with that. If you want to do learn DJ training from Pioneer DJ in South Africa, we can help you with that. Are you a makeup artist and you want to get training with from House of Tara Makeup School, who are also our business partners? SME 100 Africa, they're the ones that made this possible. Thank you so much, Charles, for making this masterclass possible. So if you want advice on being an SME or being an entrepreneur, especially if you're in the female space, you're a female entrepreneur and you need a lot of advice, or you also want access to finance, SME 100 can also help you with that, and they're also our partners. So I really hope that, once again, there's some real pointers that you've taken away from this. And feel free to contact me. Like I said, we'll be sharing all our details shortly with you, but within the next 48 hours, we'll be sharing all our contact details, minutes of all the masterclasses, alongside next week. There'll also be the videos on our YouTube page. So every day, the video on Monday would be the first video, the first session, of course, the starter pack about business models and business plans. Then the Tuesday Access to Finance will then be put out next week, Tuesday. So I really hope that, once again, you guys just keep supporting us. I appreciate that. I said it's normally going to be a 1 hour class, and it's normally been about at least 2 hours. So on that note, yes, Caleb, all of this will be in the mail. I had another guy ask me, where did I get the data about the informal sector making up about 68% of Africa? I just read a lot, so I can't give the specific information. But if you want data about African businesses, then the one company that I suggest you follow on LinkedIn, or just follow, go to their website and get as much information, is called McKinsey Africa. They're actually a market research company. They're a global company. They've got a lot of data on every single market around the world. So if you want to know how many bakers are in Nigeria, they probably have that information. How many dance companies are in Africa that are owned by females, they probably have that information. So sometimes it's good for you to do a lot of research, read, because that could also help inform if your vision and your mission for your business actually is sustainable, and actually has the long-term implications of that is viable as well. What else do I have here? Anybody saying they want to do a one-on-one with me? So, oh yeah, before I go, remember that we're going to be sending you a newsletter that has a survey from SurveyMonkey, and it's just asking you to rate the masterclass, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, what I should change, what I could improve. Olani, yes, McKinsey Africa, specifically for details about Africa. One of the partners and MDs of McKinsey Africa is a gentleman called Acha Leke. So I'll put his name up in the group chat now, Acha Leke from McKinsey. He's one of the MDs of McKinsey Africa, and he's actually written a book about how businesses operate in Africa, and how they can grow and how they can scale and how they can be profitable. So that book by Acha Leke, gosh, which I can't remember the name of it right now. I feel like I just need to quickly Google it. Where are my books? Gosh, sorry guys, bear with me a moment. Books, I think I should have it in my book list. Okay, yes, there we go. So it's called Africa Business Revolution. Can you see it there? Africa's Business Revolution, How to Succeed in the World's Next Big Growth Market, written by Acha Leke, Mutsha Chironga, and George DeVoe. So Africa's Business Revolution, that is the book by Acha Leke. He's the MD of McKinsey Africa, and for me, wealth of knowledge. That really was one of the books that I read and I got a lot of data to realize that the problem that I want to resolve, that Bookings Africa wants to resolve, is actually a Pan-African issue. Actually, it's more like an EMEA issue, to be honest. But I'll start saving the world one job at a time. That is signing out. All right, guys, send me a message on social media if you still want to have a one-on-one. And I have an interesting question for you before I go. Would you guys have paid for this masterclass? Now that you know what the content is about, you know the duration, you know the value that you're getting from it, is it something that you would pay for? And how much do you think would have been a fair amount to charge for the entire 1 week? Or do you think people should be able to pay for each topic? Like day one is, I don't know, 5 naira, day 2, 5 naira, day 3, or should we just say, you have to pay 25 naira for the 1 week, whether you come or not? Because just like I'm doing, whether you come for 1 day or 5 days, you will still get access to the entire week's notes, and you will still get access to all the videos as well. So let me see, what are you guys saying? $5 merit. You think I'm that cheap? What's going on here? Tashik says, this week's courses have given us invaluable information, and I'm sure it's benefited all of us. Thank you very much, Tashik. That is my country manager in South Africa. How are you guys doing? So everyone's saying absolutely. Funlola, absolutely. How much would you guys pay? People should pay for each model, for each topic. I would pay for this, 20K, definitely. I think there should be an option to pay for the whole package or certain classes. Can we get a certificate? Especially with cool journals and worksheets. Okay, so 50K. All right, that's a good price range to know. Because moving forward, I'll let you know, because I think you guys are almost like a little family now, so I can spill all my secrets. Not quite, but a lot of people have been reaching out to me on social media and asking why I'm not monetizing it. And I said, during this period of COVID, I really wanted to give back. It's not all about just making money. But hopefully when we come out of this, I would actually like to be able to get international speakers, international thought leaders that can also do very great and very informative presentations. Now, if I do that, I would actually probably have to end up paying those speakers to be a part of my platform. Right now, I'm using my network to the best ability and trying to harness value from the network that I originally have. However, if I'm going to go and get international people who are speakers and they get paid to speak, I'm sure that they would want some remuneration for that. So I was just trying to get, you know, ballpark figure just to see if it would be a viable option moving forward. And I think you guys are definitely, you guys got my back. So if we decide to do that, you will be able to make payments securely on bookingsafrica.com. All right, guys. Well, thank you once again for everything. I appreciate your time. It's a Friday night. I would normally say, let's go turn up. But number one, I don't even party much anymore. And number two, I'm sure like DJ Obi or somebody is online on Instagram Live. So I'll catch you club quarantine. Yes, girl. Lola, I see you. So I will catch you guys probably at club quarantine or one of these battle DJs. I will catch you somewhere online. Follow Bookings Africa, download the app, support in any way that you can. And also refer us. If you are a talent, tell your client, book me on Bookings Africa. So that way you know that you're now starting to create your own bookkeeping records. You're starting to be able to have access to loans and to free training and a bunch of other things that occurs when you're part of the Bookings Africa community. So don't just download it and cross your fingers and hope that you'll get a booking. Try and also generate bookings for yourself through the platform. All right, so I'm gonna go now, guys. I need to cook. I'm gonna go. Ciao.